What's going on?
We're in Happy Wednesday.
To rock and roll. I titled this. I'm trying to think of what clickbait to do. So I titled the podcast "Why Sports Valuations Are Growing. Why Isn't Powerlifting?" Um, and it's really funny. So uh, I've been in PA. You're now in PA, and PA they pat themselves on their back a lot because they've grown quite a bit. But they've grown quite a bit relative to zero, right? They, you know, I'm trying to think of a good analogy for this. If I don't know, babies. Think about a newborn. A newborns grow really, really fast, right? There's not a, like it's very easy when your baseline is zero, but the relative sport as a whole, or relative to other professional sports, powerlifting has barely grown at all. It's like we say the federations are the size of a McDonald's in terms of revenue. So I was like, what can we do? Clickbait. But anyway, here's an intro. Today we're going to be talking about rising sports valuations and why powerlifting isn't getting a piece of it. We're going to touch on the enhanced games. Me and Bill have a bit of a fascination. I have a big fascination with the enhanced games. And then we're going to talk a little bit about. I don't really want to talk. I'll talk about the series from like what I'm going to do in 2027, but also I spitball ideas about powerlifting as a whole. What can we do to make it a little better here and there? But yeah, how are you, Bill?
I'm good. I'm good. I have just done a lot more reading on the enhanced games than I've done before, and I don't know if you maybe want to kick off there or if you want to lead in with if you
So
want
I
to
think
touch on the
sports
Apollo
valuations
valuation, then we'll roll into it.
go
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
into that because I think that's a more macro picture. I was reading an article today about rising sports valuations. Um,
Well, we can
uh,
kick off with we had mentioned that last week that I found it share with Sebastian. So this white paper that was published at the end of 2025 by Apollo Global Management, which is a giant asset management firm, and they typically invest in kind of alternative assets. I was familiar with them in a past life because they invested in a lot of middle market companies where the firm I was with did business. But it's something they've been getting a lot more into, as well as a lot of more institutional capital. So that's saying like your private
did
equity
you
firms, asset managers.
want to give
Yes,
people your background?
my background. So I was a gym owner on the other side of Chicago from Sebastian for a long time, and then I went into investment banking, and I was in mergers and acquisitions, primarily on sell side, but we did a little bit of buy side work as well, a little bit of capital raises. So I was in that world for a little bit, a little familiar with the jargon here, and um, something that just what didn't happen and hasn't happened really in the history of sports is the presence of institutional capital. So that means you look at like in the NFL, you have a ton of most of the teams now are still owned by, like in the case of the Bears, it's owned by the same family that started the team, right? The McCaskies get that's
Yeah.
descendants of George Halas, right? You have the Oakland Raiders is another example of that. You have Mark Davis, who's the son of Al Davis, who started that team forever ago, right?
Well,
Uh,
you have lots of kids too.
and you have kids too, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's a family owned, but it's a family, right? At the very least, it's a
Yeah.
family owned thing, and that's also typically the case with the other major sports franchises as well, like the Steinbrenners with the Yankees. You have Jerry Jones and his family with the Cowboys. So many of these teams, for the longest time, it was this special little thing to where, like, if you got wealthy enough, you could buy yourself a professional sports teams. But now, what has happened, especially since COVID, the valuations have gone up so much
So
across
hold
the
on.
board of
Let's
professional. Yes.
let's pause. We'll put a pin in institutional investing. I think we need to do a little bit of education about um, how sports are so valuable and why they make money
Yes.
first.
Hmm.
Let me just go real quick into that, and then we'll go, and then that will make more sense why private equity is getting involved. So
Good. Yeah.
basically, the reason sports teams are so valuable is because they are a finite resource, right? You've heard home prices are really increasing. That's because there's not enough supply of them. Well, so there's hundreds of thousands of homes in the United States, but guess what? There's only 32 NFL teams. Like that's a very finite asset, right? There's very few of them. So you have lots of people who want to buy them. So you have a lot of sellers and you have a small supply. And these things, I've heard, I think it was in Billions, the reference is sports teams are how we knight people in this country. Sports teams are like, they're
Yes.
basically, a stadium is the modern day equivalent of a castle. Like
Yes.
it's. I mean, you've seen how nice these teams are. So there's very few of these assets that exist, and so the valuations are super high. And what's crazy is sports teams for the longest time actually didn't make a lot of money, believe it or not. You made most of your money when you sold the team. The valuation crept up, but teams were operating on single digit margins, sometimes losing money depending on, especially MLB teams, given the salary cap structure there. But teams historically weren't making any money because, like you said, they were family owned and people, they were family assets. And so what happens is valuations climb and climb and climb. And the people who are buying these teams now are all basically billionaire individuals, and they're business people, so they know how to run businesses. So the business of sports has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. Along with that, the main drivers are really two things that have made these valuations just go crazy. One is the Netflix, believe it or not. So Netflix, all these shows are now commercial free. So advertisers only have a certain number of things that they can actually put commercials on that are live. And sports is one of those few things. And so that's why sports rights on TV have grown so exponentially. You see UFC has a contract 2 times the size of the NHL, like national rights. Now there's local rights in there, but it's absolutely massive. So that's kind of why we've seen valuations climb. Now let's segue into enter private equity.
Yeah.
There's fewer and fewer individuals that can now purchase these teams. So now you basically are going to need institutional money to prop this up, and that's where.
Exactly. And then just to elaborate on how much revenue comes from media now. So just looking at the NFLs, and about a
But
19.
do you have the multiple pie charts up?
I do. Yes, yes. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at,
yeah.
no,
That's
I've
a
got,
good
no,
graphic.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
so looking, this is not actually referencing the Apollo white paper. So $18.7 billion a year, that's the NFL league revenue. 66% of that comes from media deals. Only 17% comes from the actual tickets that people are paying for to go watch a game.
Yeah. And the reason for that is the NFL only has 16 games, so there's going to be less tickets.
Yes, yeah,
Which I
exactly.
mean,
Right.
which actually is
Yes,
just amazing how they are able to get so much revenue from
yes.
the TV.
Yes,
So continue.
which is one of the reasons why that makes it why it makes those franchises the most valuable. Like if looking further down in the paper, just and this is readily available information on the internet, just looking at the most valuable individual franchises out of the top 10, 7 are in the NFL. So you've got the Cowboys, the Rams, the Giants are at the top 3.
Yeah,
Golden State Warriors at number 4. Then you've got the Patriots, 49ers, Eagles, Yankees at number 8, New York Knicks, and then the Dolphins. And then I would assume that the rest of the NFL really makes up the top 50 across the board.
yeah. I do want to. I kind of want to stay away from individual valuations because a lot of that can be super super subjective. Because, like, if I were a multi-billionaire and I was buying a team, the Bears versus the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm paying double for the Bears because I've been a Bears fan all my life. And brands matter too. Like I saw that the San Francisco Giants were worth double what the White Sox were worth. And I thought that maybe has to do with the economics of the Bay Area and maybe that stadium being valued much higher because the real estate's worth more. But I think looking at it as a whole makes more, like the Cowboys being worth 13 billion and the Bears being worth 8. I don't see where the 5 billion margin comes from.
Sure, sure. So looking at it as a whole,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. But going back to that, even if Sebastian, whenever you make it big and you become a media mogul of some kind, something like that,
Yeah, right.
it's still, however much you make, it's extremely likely, even if you make it to a net worth in the billions, that now you're not going to have the money individually to buy a professional sports franchise,
You
right? So
have to be,
now, yeah,
you have to be liquid too. Like,
yes,
you,
yeah,
you
yeah,
just feel
that's a
like,
tough thing.
like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yes,
like Elon Musk is not liquid enough to. I mean, maybe he is because of the private, because it's publicly traded. But like, he may not be liquid enough right now to buy an NFL team.
right, right.
Um,
So this is what now transitioning into the institutional capital. So this is where like firms are getting into it, right? So the biggest asset managers are going to be like your Blackstones, BlackRock, Apollo is in there too, and then you've got big private equity groups um, like Leonard Green. If some of the other names you might recognize, Carlyle Group is another one that's gotten.
I
Uh,
mean, let's talk Guggenheim Partners, who owns the Dodgers. Let's
yes,
talk.
yes, mhm.
Fenway Sports Group is quite literally a private equity fund, basically at this point. Like they own, they own the if you own the Penguins, a Premier League team, and the Boston Red Sox, and a couple other things, and you have a bunch of investors, you are the private equity fund at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been moving this way, but part of there has been there have been regulations in the individual leagues, and the NFL was the last one to to allow this. There's been it partly it's been because it is like Sebastian, you said, this is almost a way that we knight people, right? It's been a big
Well,
like individual achievement in this country to kind of it's a bit of a vanity purchase for a lot of them until recently, but now and for a long time it was a little club they wanted to protect it like that was
so
if like
that's
there's some
speaking of
insight
club.
into that in the I don't did you ever watch the 30 for 30 on the USFL?
Oh, the Trump one. I haven't. I've
Yes,
caught
yeah,
clips.
yeah,
I haven't, but I mean, I guess the gist is they blocked him out, and then he started his own league, which is
yes.
Very American thing to do. So hold on, I want to touch real quick on something about the. So you still are required as an individual to own at least 40% of the team, and you have to have a controlling interest in the team. Um, you private equity can only own up to 10% of an NFL team. So there still are restrictions, but that has increased team valuations even more because now there are more buyers, right?
Yes.
So there's more people bidding for a number of assets that hasn't changed. So again, it's you increase the pool of buyers, you're going to increase prices of things. Um, so yeah, I mean that's generally. I mean, the point I think we're trying to get to is sports valuations are growing and growing and growing. It's one of the best performing asset classes. It's actually funny. A private equity fund I talked to about some of this stuff. It's just they just glow over how sports, like they were the first into like sports as an asset class, and really they just glow over how valuable it is. And it's like when then we're talking about how can powerlifting get its piece of that pie. That's what I mean. So I'll be transparent. The reason I got into powerlifting is because, well, I got into it because I thought it'd be a fun thing to do, and then I saw the dollar signs. And as an entrepreneur, when I saw the dollar signs, I'm like, how can I make these super cool and awesome meets? How can I make this thing amazing? How can I do this? How can I make as much money as possible? And I personally see a massive financial opportunity in this space. And so the question is, how do we get our slice of the pie? There's too much history and there's too much institutional weight behind the MLB, the NHL, the NBA, the NFL. There's too much. We're not going to be that size. But the question is, how can we be like the UFC? The UFC does one event a month. They have a great brand power. They have people say, oh well, UFC you get punched in the mouth. I'm like, well, Jesus squat, someone squatting triple, quadruple their body weight is kind of has that effect. I think so. I think there's somewhere, there's something somewhere. We need to get our
Yep.
piece, whatever size that piece is. Like any business, you have to, you grow, you make a margin, you reinvest that margin, you try to make more money, you try to grow your business. Like we need to start that cycle. You start small. When I first started my gym, we were doing like $150,000 to $200,000 a year in revenue. Now we're doing millions because we took the profits, reinvested them, and grew and grew and grew. And so we have to figure out what the machine is. We can start putting inputs into to then grow. It becomes scalable after that.
Yes, and to give you an idea, like there's this white paper has the total addressable market of the entire sports economy at $2.5 trillion. Like if we even were able to capture 1/10 of 1% of that, that's $1 billion. Like there's so much money out there, and like just the fact that
So, question: did
yeah,
you know about all this before you read that, or
not
about the
these
size of
not
the scope of the size and scope of the sports economy?
not that specific number. No.
Oh, okay, but
Yeah.
you knew it was big before that, right?
Right, but this is the first one, and again, this is part of it. Is this is a relatively new space for these kinds of firms to get into, right? So a lot of it is like we didn't really have a great picture of what these numbers look like. I don't think anybody really had a handle on what the global sports economy total addressable market was, right? Or what they're really looking for, or just how much money was coming in from the institutional side. So this is to say that there's just so much out there, and there's um, I'll pause there and let you jump back in. But this is just to say there's enormous opportunity out there. There really is. Like there's
Right.
enormous
Yeah. Yeah.
financial
Yeah. I
opportunity.
just I want people to just understand like there are opportunities. It's not. I just refuse for people to keep telling me that it's because the sport is boring that it's not successful. I promise you, and the people who are running the sport are the reason it's not successful. It has nothing to do with the sport itself. Well, it does because we've refused to adjust the sport to match our consumers, which are the fans. We've refused to adjust that. And the people in charge have refused to adjust that for any number of reasons. Some that are stupidity, some are just like apathy. There's different reasons, but we just refuse to and I'm going to say I'm the first person to bring this up on this level to this capacity. I don't think anyone talks the way, I have about this or brought this to light. I don't know that's not necessarily a brag. It's just more like what has everyone been doing the past decade while I was, in high school. Like what, I'm conversation I'm about to do. What are the conversations like? Like who's working on this? Are people in the IPF working on this? I'm very curious about what that. I mean, you were no. I mean, the WPO people who were doing stuff on ESPN.
Yeah.
I'm curious. But obviously my thesis is pretty logical. But yeah. Sorry. I don't want to get too off topic into that because we'll circle back to that at the end. But the reason I want to talk about enhanced games is because they are kind of to transition. They are kind of jumping ahead of like way ahead of what I thought. And then when I saw that they got Thor and um, Mitchell Hooper to do a deadlift battle, I'm like, powerlifting's next, man. I mean, they're gonna get Julius Maddox bench pressing. They're gonna find like I was like, oh my gosh, like I just think that may be the future of strength sports.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, do you want to you read up on it? I've been following it forever.
Right,
Um,
because I obviously I've seen the promo for it for a couple of years now, and then finally they're going to put their first event together in Vegas in May of this year. But I was just the biggest thing that really threw me off was, well, I already knew that a lot of their financing initially was coming from Peter Thiel, and obviously Peter Thiel's really into like kind of like
yes,
transhumanism and like
yeah,
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 so
yeah,
like that
yeah.
seemed right up his alley. But something that I thought was this is the most fascinating thing that I found out about it was so do you know about their founder Arun D'Souza?
I have not read. I've watched interviews with him though.
Okay, so seems like a pretty sharp guy. He's got a handful of degrees from Oxford, including a PhD. Started some fintech company that seems like he made a pretty good exit on. But his first big thing, his first big success was he was the guy who over dinner one night at a restaurant in Berlin convinced Peter Thiel to finance Hulk Hogan's Gawker lawsuit.
Lawsuit. Okay, yes, I
So
did remember
he,
this. Yes,
so he was,
yes.
and he was the liaison between Thiel and Hogan's legal team. So this is somebody who already seems to know how to spot a pretty good a lucrative opportunity, right? So this isn't just some he's not even an athlete. He's not from the athletics background. This is a businessman, which is, you know, like we've talked about. Like whenever a sport really needs to make a jump to the next level or does make that jump, it's from when somebody from outside sees the opportunity and then makes it happen, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so yeah,
you see this time and time. You saw it with the UFC. Quick example:
yeah,
UFC was like fucking, fumbling around. Had a really entertaining thing. Fumbled around a bit, and then um, the Fortitas bought it. They're business people. They owned casinos, and suddenly it became a thing. And yeah, you're right. Like, I don't think anyone else is. I don't think anyone else maybe even was pursuing the idea of having people get doped up and do the Olympics.
yeah.
But yeah. There's institutional weight behind this. Um,
And that the big thing to mention too is that it's the like I guess the question would be, why would an athlete, especially because they only want the top of the top, this isn't just like anybody can show up and like
yeah,
take
yeah.
steroids and do it, right? This is essentially invite only at this point. uh, so the question would be, you know, they want the best of the best. Why would the best of the best, say if you're, you know, an Olympic caliber swimmer or track and field athlete, why would you make the jump? Well, because you could make
Right.
$1 million at a, yes, exactly, because
Mr.
there's
Krabs.
so much money.
Hey.
Yes, yes. And that's the big thing, right? Is like and this is there's actually money to be made here. And we've talked about that's a huge part of, and that would solve so many issues. I feel like that's what abs has done really well in the untested powerlifting space. Is there is this place you can go, not just for the competition, but like you can actually win some money here,
Well, so
right?
hold on. Let's pause. Like abs, actually, hold on. Let's begin back. Abs really isn't a great example because abs actually doesn't give that much money, or hardly any at all. Abs is
It's a lot
just
more than zero.
no. It's not. It's nothing significant. It's not.
I mean, it's not Sheffield, but it's yeah.
No, it's not. No. So the reason abs is the way it is because untested forever had no standards, as we've seen this week. Untested had no standards, and he just basically brought the IPF rule book. IPF had to stick up their ass. He was an IPF guy. He brought the IPF to untested, and that's why everyone wants. It's one unifying platform. He will eventually get to where he can give money, but I think what you're trying to get at with the money example is why the IPF took control from the USAPL. Because the IPF had the money at Sheffield. All those athletes who stayed in the USAPL and farted around eventually just moved over because there was more money in the
Yeah.
IPF. So your point is correct. I think abs just wasn't the right example, and I don't want people to think that they're giving away oodles of cash. Abs does a great job, but it's money, and I think also remember Olympians don't make any money. This is going from
Yep.
something from nothing.
Yeah.
I think if Olympians made even something somewhat okay, there would be the enhanced games wouldn't work, or they would have to give much more money to make it work. What's happening? What they're basically saying is saying you are in poverty and you're the fastest man alive, or you're one of the fastest people alive. Come over here. You can get sauced up. I think they make it clear that it's optional. You might not have an option if you want to be competitive, but you get sauced up. And so here's what's interesting. And actually, I kind of disagree with this. I saw in an interview that their thesis is they're going to use the enhanced games as a way to basically sell their pharmacological supplements.
Sure. I mean, this is something else the Apollo paper talks about, is just how diversified the sports economy is. Because it's no longer just about the sport. There's so many other things that you could tie into that, right? So I think this kind of going at the core of the sports economy we already talked about is media rights. But there's so much more diversification to
Well,
be
no,
had there.
that's what was so interesting. He didn't mention me rights. He said, we are building the enhanced games as a business to sell our pharmacological products.
Mhm.
And I personally think that's a mistake. I think you do that, of course. You want to sell your pharmacological for sure. But you should be doing that and selling the rights and selling the tickets and selling you should be doing it all. Why limit? I mean, maybe focus on one thing, but like I don't see why you couldn't have your cake and eat it too. I don't like, because the whole point is they're going to build a better version of the Olympics. People
Yeah.
will probably still care about the Olympics for one reason or the other, but they're going to build a better version, and they're going to pay people, and it's not going to be run by these stupid corrupt IO like international governing bodies. It's going to be run by real entrepreneurs, and it's going to be publicly traded too. And so yeah, I think it's super interesting, and it's like, what lessons can we learn? They were able to raise lots of money to do this project. How can we do it in our sport? How can we, who's our Peter Thiel? Like, who's like, how can we do that? Is kind of like why I wanted to bring up the enhanced games, and also like having, I mean, them deadlifting is tangential from what we're doing. Like, what do they do well at this event that we can steal to do our stuff better?
Yeah. And then even the thing that they're hyping is not so much the deadlift, but the showdown between the two, right? Like it's the human. They're already building the human interest side, the rivalry between the two guys. They haven't even
Yeah.
mentioned it. I don't know if they've mentioned even any numbers.
What's great is they were already rivals, and so now they're just
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
it.
It's
Now they're
amazing.
putting it on. Probably, I mean, it's. Have you seen like the rendering of the venue in Las Vegas? Like, so what's
Yep.
funny is I originally was like, oh, if I want to do this powerlifting stuff, I got to go to Texas. That's where all the athletes are. They're in Texas, and then I'm in Vegas. I went to the Bears game this summer in Vegas, and I'm like, no, I'm so wrong. We're in the entertainment capital of the world. This is where you entertain people in Vegas. I mean, you're putting the two of the strongest men, freaks of the planet, in Las Vegas on a massive platform. I'm guessing they're going to get some network coverage. I don't think there's anything. I think there was this. I think this worry that if they're on PEDs, that the networks aren't going to want it. The president's son is involved. I think there's going to be a network or two that's like gonna jump in on this stuff. I don't think it's going to be on YouTube. Like, I think this is. I don't know about ESPN, but like, if a major network could pick this up, this could be like a spectacle, a new spectacle for us to see. And that's what people want, right? You said like that's what people want to see. You don't think people want to see two of the strongest men in the world try and break the deadlift record against each other? Now you've got the battle. It's not just one guy solo questing. That's okay, and it's cool to see, but like, now you have this whole, now they're gonna have press conferences, they're gonna have these two. God, I'm so jealous. All this shit I just can't do because
Yeah.
I just the money's not there. But like, the bill, like, of course this is going to work. Everything is in their favor. Everything is lining up for this to just be spectacular. Um,
Yeah,
you
because
know,
even if they don't, even that's the whole thing. Even if neither of them break the whatever Thor's record is now, it ultimately comes down to the showdown between the two. Because it ultimately the two they just want to beat one another, right? Oh,
no, now you have
and like you
this.
said too, and you've even said too. It's like, really, what would you rather? And you put this as a poll on your story a few weeks ago. It's like, what would you really rather see? Do you just want to see the records broken, or do you want to see the competition, like the head to head, like that, people going at it, teams going at it?
Yeah, the records thing is a mistake. The records thing is a logical fallacy. That's what people want to see. I think people do want to see that, but they want to see it as an accessory. It's not a compound. It's not a main. The main driver is competition. That's what's entertainment, and then records is secondary. Why do you think people said this was the worst Sheffield ever? Because it was two blowouts. No one wants to see a blowout. We want to see Russ versus Jurens, which was neck and neck, head to head. David slays Goliath. That's what people want to see. That's what everyone still
Yeah.
talks about. If you ask people in the last 10 years what the best battle in powerlifting is, that battle happened, what, 3 years ago? And people would still say it's the best because it was the last time we had a real battle. We had an
Yeah.
underdog beat a favorite. Like, no one's saying Sheffield. No one's going, oh, well, like, Sheffield was the best matchup. No, we haven't. That's just not what we're here for.
No, or I even it was funny because I was thinking about this, and like I even remember still watching. It was an old, really simple live stream from I think it was 10 years ago. USAPL Raw Nationals had an amazing showdown between Dave Ricks and Jesse Norris. So you had going into it, you've got like this old veteran versus the kind of the up and coming young guy. It came down to literally the last deadlift. no records were broken in the 93s. No, neither of them hit a record squat, record bench, record deadlift, or total. But that literally came down to each of their last deadlifts. It was unbelievable to watch. Just the drama back and forth, trading the lead through all the lifts. Who cared about the records? It was just that was the interesting part. It was just the showdown. The numbers are just kind of tangential to it, you know.
Yeah, right. No. And so, like, if you have to break the world record to win, that's cool,
Yeah,
and that's like
that's
a cool headline. But it's like I'm not. I don't wake up in the morning to watch the NFL to see if Caleb Williams can throw for 10 touchdowns. I want to see if the Bears can win. If Caleb Williams throws for 10 touchdowns, I'm going to lose my mind. It's going to be cool. But like, yeah, I've been a broken record about this. I mean, if you want, my thesis has always been, if you want the sport to grow, you've got to make it more competitive, right? And so how do you make it more competitive? You can't have head-to-head matchups every single month because lifters need to, quote, recover, which is, somewhat questionable, whatever. But like, so what you do is you put them on teams and just have the rosters rotate. And then you can have competition every single month. I mean, it just like, I don't think I have to be Jimmy Neutron to like figure out like you and then if that doesn't work, you go, okay, what about it didn't work? Right? I'm going to be the first person to audit it. What didn't work? Okay, these things didn't work, and you adjust and you change. And like, I'll be the first person to be like, oh, this didn't work. And if it didn't work, I'll go back to my gym and hang out and shoot the shit with people. But I think that the bias should be towards improvement. Like, what are the problems? What are the potential solutions? I'm sure you saw my reel where I was listening to another podcast, and it's just like, they're like, what if powerlifting, they cut the competition into clips and they layered commentary over it and it was shorter. And they go, this will fix the sport. And I go, you mean a highlight reel? Like highlights? Like, you mean highlights? No, like, no, people want to watch sports live.
yes. Yeah.
Like this, it's the internet. You're gonna find out who wins when you turn it on. Everything's segmented long to short. Okay, this is so newsflash for people who don't know. Not a lot of people watch the full or listen to the full podcast. I've never once intended for that. We get like 100 listens, 100, 200, which actually I think is great. We get 100, 200 people. And usually the people who are listening tend to be the people who are the most influential, who I want to work with anyway. But we'll get 10, 20,000 views on a clip. And so because there's long form into short and my producer will clip the long video into like 8 to 10 minute segments, and we'll post those, and then we have shorter form. So it's the same thing. It's like you have live for the people who are most dedicated, you have highlights for the people who want to just recap it, and then guess what, those highlights have ads as well, so there's ad revenue. I mean, I bet you the NFL is making $100,000 per post-game highlight based on how long those are. And then you have reels, and you have reels for like the little clips of each lift. I mean, I like the media egos. The blueprint's already out there. The media blueprint is already out there. We're doing it right now. We're doing a long form podcast. We're going to cut it into shorter videos. We're going to cut it into clips, and the clips get the people to listen, hopefully, to the longer form.
So yeah, almost like it forms a funnel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's a pyramid. The whole world's a pyramid.
in one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's essentially how it has to go, and it's the live aspect is always going to be the foundation of it, right?
Yeah.
There's just no way around that. So I think maybe the only sport where it really benefited from, but again, like, maybe that's just because there was no alternative. But I think about like the old ESPN days of World's Strongest Man, like that was all post production, right? And the whole thing, and that what made it entertaining was
They have problems too. They don't want to change their sport either, and no one's going to watch it because they don't want to change it. Like, it's the
right,
same
and
thing.
exactly because live it takes multiple days, right? It takes forever. There's so much downtime between them.
Days is not the problem, dude. I'm watching 5 days a week of football. Multiple days is not the problem. I promise. You could do Thursday. I mean, the Masters. I'm sorry. I watch most of the Masters. A round of golf is like 3-4 hours. What they need to do is like you have to find ways to make it. I mean, the structure exists. People want to watch one, people who can win, right? They want to see the people who can win. They want to see it in max 3.5 hours. No more than three. Like 3.5 is still too long. 2.5 is preferred, but I'm going to say max 3.5 hours. I'm going to give some wiggle room there. Like the blueprint is there for what people want. So you have to. So you don't try to make people fit your sport, right? Which is, I think, the problem now. People are like, oh, we're going to make these parts of the product, the lipstick on a pig. They're trying to make a pig more pretty when really they need to just get the pig a little skinnier. Like make the pig better in beginning, and then everything else will just work so much better. You have to fix the product first, address the product, and then you can go from there. Like I genuinely don't think like so. Nationals is coming up. I've always wanted to reform nationals. I've been desperate. I've tried to have been in Zalowinski's ear. I was trying in Luke Mellon's ear when Luke was there. Like I was like, fix prime time at nationals. Fix prime time at nationals. Okay, you take the top 3 in each weight class, and you put them in prime time each one of the 4 days, and you're done. You have 16 weight classes. That's 48 lifters, 12 lifters per day. You would put on the show of shows to do that. And it's just, here's what happens. If they were to, they won't even propose it, because if they were to propose changing nationals to make it basically more entertaining, the board would go, but it's not fair. It's not fair to the 4th place person. Because the Fed's not about making money. The Fed's about the lifter, right? And so what we do is we actually do a disservice to the lifter by not making the product more watchable, which gets more sponsors, which gets more money for the lifters. We say, no, we want to do this for the lifter, and we actually hurt them because we don't want to make meaningful changes to the product itself. So that's where we're at right now, and it's like, how do we reform all that? I don't think there is a reforming of that. It's more of a reform comes from the outside, right? Reform comes from someone on the outside doing something, and then they going, oh, that's really great. They're taking our market share. Now we need to adjust, right? Segue a la USAPL, PA, dueling against each other.
Yeah. So not an enormous amount of changes. Not like anything really fundamental to the sport needs to change.
No.
It's just a few tweaks, right? But that, but here, but and to go to start to zoom out a little bit from that. But the point of that is so that you can make it more watchable. Like that's the key, right? That's where so much of this comes from. That's how you get the money into it. So you need more eyeballs, you need more people, you need more viewers. It's not even so much of a like at this point. It's obviously you want more people participating, you want more members in Powerlifting America. That's great, but you need to start figuring out how do you get those people that are not powerlifters, that don't have a Powerlifting America membership. How do you get them to have an interest in sport?
So yeah, I mean, going back to the pyramid analogy, you have your pyramid here. You have local level lifters, and you have national level lifters, world, Sheffield. It's a pyramid. So what's interesting is actually the pyramid actually opens up at the top, and those are the fans. Those are the viewers. At the very top of at very bottom of that pyramid are the hardest of hardcore powerlifting fans. They're going to watch no matter what. They're going to watch powerlifting. Then you have more casual powerlifting fans. And what we haven't been able to get to is that like 3rd tier, which is like hardcore sports fans, like sports bettors. Obviously, you can't bet on it yet, but like that would be the 3rd tier. In order to get to that 3rd tier, you have to like gambling is always what I talked about because that breaks that 3rd tier. And once you break into the 3rd tier, that 3rd tier of like sports betting gamblers will start making content and will pollinate into harder core sports fans.
Yeah.
So like breaking into that is going to require something like sports betting, but then there's a tier above that, and that's like the more casual sports fan. And in order to do that, you're either going to need teams in their cities because people want to root for their team in their city, or you're going to need a product that people are like, oh my gosh, do you see that Jesus is going to try and squat 1,000 pounds on Saturday? Are you going to watch? Right? Or we need to start advertising to the masses, and hopefully, if you advertise to 100,000 people, hopefully 1,000 show up and watch. Convince people that it's going to be entertaining and nice. And it's like I just named 15 different things. It's going to require all 15 of those things to make the sport successful. No one of those things is going to make it. I'm going to go back to this. There's this theory that if we move powerlifting into an arena, people are suddenly going to notice. And it's like, you know what? Like, there are cheerleading competitions and arenas, and we're still not, we're still not locked in on those. So, like, maybe it's going to take a little bit more than that. Probably a lot more. And even when we do get there, like, that's not the end. Like, when I do the first, like, I think next year is going to really be the big year for the series. I think this year what's going to happen is this is what's going to happen. Someone's going to win the 35 grand I'm putting up. And then people are going to see it on Instagram and they're going to go, I could have won that. Why didn't I do that? And it's like, well, I've been advertising it for the past 7 months. And then it's going to kind of have like a trailing kind of effect, as it always does. Everyone, no one wants to be the first person to try and experiment. So yeah, we were on, what were we talking about?
Sounds like you want to transition into the series, though. If
it's not even the series. The series is very experimental. I want to transition into more like what we were talking about is exactly what I want, and then we'll get to the series. But like, I personally have never thought that powerlifting has powerlifting does not have the future I want inside the IPF. I think the IPF's mission, Powerlifting America's mission, etc., should be a couple things. One is youth development. That should be their primary focus. And there's a lot of money there too. There's a lot of memberships there in youth development. That should be their primary focus. They're a nonprofit. They're not really set up to be just like low. Like what they do now is like insane. It's like you're trying to serve so many different masters, and it's very, very difficult. They should be focused on youth level. They should be focused on high school nationals. The local level of high school should be run by the states. The IHSAs of the world, whatever local state body there is. College should be run by its own organization, the NCAA, or its own organization if they can't be in the NCAA. One of those two. And then, like, if you're good enough, you could go to potentially worlds, like junior worlds, in that high school vein. As far as like the top level, they should only be governing international competition. Domestic competition should really, at the professional level, not be something that the federation is involved in. One, they're not very good at it, right? As we see, all these events are run by private people. Two, they're just not financially or legally set up to do that. They're set up to clear their books at the end of the year. They're not really set up to be governing something like this. And we've seen so many issues because the members vote for the administration, and those interests aren't always aligned with a for-profit model. If your goal is to make as much money as possible, and your employees or your fans are voting for who's going to do it, they're not going to be in line. The goals are not going to be in line, as we know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think the IPF should be trying to get us into the Olympics. And like, if I had a professional league, every 4 years, you would love the Olympic platform. Like, you would love for your lifters every 4 years to go to the Olympics and then resume their season just like everyone else. Like, they're only going to lift once at the Olympics. You would qualify from, just like the NHL. The NHL has like a tryout thing, but they use the NHL season to determine. You should use a domestic season to determine who goes to Worlds. There's no reason to have a national, or maybe you do. Maybe you have an Olympic trials type thing. That would be cool. Like an American Olympic trials would be very cool. I don't even think that's necessary. I think you just take the best lifters from the domestic league and have them go to the Olympics if powerlifting was in the Olympics. And then maybe you have like a Four Nations type thing. But yeah, I'm pro. Listen, if powerlifting gets to any sort of commercially viable level, private equity and private investors are going to take it over. It's not going to be part of the IPF. So why don't we skip the whole IPF thing and just focus on, like, if I were the IPF, I'd be trying to find an investor to build a major league for us, just like lacrosse did, so we could eventually get into the Olympics. That would be my goal. That would be if I was the president of the IPF, that's all I would do. I'd be like, how do we get into the Olympics? Okay, we need a domestic league. Okay, how many people with money can I talk to in a week? Like, how many people can I convince? How can we build a professional league so that then powerlifting can be in the Olympics? And then maybe you do worlds, like I said, worlds every 2 years. You do something like that. And then it's trial and error. You see what works, see what doesn't. But that's where I see things. I don't know if people would disagree with me. I don't know what the argument is for continuing along this path. I don't find it. Listen, we've had nationals, worlds, Sheffield, national, worlds, Sheffield, and the sport hasn't gone anywhere. Oh, it is for the first time this year. They're moving to a larger arena, so we'll see how that goes. But like for the first time in 5 years, the sport is taking a leap, a small leap, by the way. Let's say an extra 3,000 tickets. Let's say that's $100,000. Let's say that's $100 per ticket. Let's use some crazy math. The sport grew by $300,000 in revenue over 5 years. like, like, am I being dramatic?
No, I think it's
That's
there.
not good. That's
No,
bad. Like,
yeah.
that's bad. Like, that's nothing. That's not. What is that? That's 60 grand. That's not even like a small salary. So yeah, I'm gonna hit the bathroom real quick. I'm letting Bill talk on that.
All right. Well, you've got me for a while, but I don't. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the financial part of it, and just to say there were a couple of pieces from the white paper that I thought were compelling. So along the lines of Sheffield moving to a bigger arena, it's great, but like Sebastian just pointed out, that's not what's going to drive the revenue. Revenue's got to come from the media rights. So it's just quoting from the Apollo paper, the single most powerful driver of value creation across the entire ecosystem is media rights. Sports are the last form of live appointment viewing in an on-demand world, making them uniquely valuable to advertisers and distributors alike. Networks and streaming platforms pay record premiums to secure exclusive broadcast rights, recognizing that live sports command captive audiences that few other forms of content can replicate. As a result, sports media broadcasting rights have become some of the most prized intellectual property in media, with contract value soaring as leagues leverage global demand for their content. So, just kind of putting a bow on. Again, just going off of what you said, like, yeah, it's great that Sheffield's moving to a bigger arena, but that's only going to do so much, right? There's so much more of a greater ecosystem that people need to be aware
Yeah,
of. So, yep.
yeah. No, so I've always said Sheffield's great. We just need to do that same thing 40 times a year. Like 40 sell out 40 venues a year, and like if you can't even like I said, I thought the idea of, and I have a thought, but I like the idea of staying at that same venue and building that model and then finding out how to replicate. I thought that was more important than growing. I think I think they were already at somewhat of, or I don't even know if they could find out where their critical mass is. You've got to figure out where your price sensitivity is. Like, you got to figure out what your customers are willing to spend. I thought moving to a bigger arena, I think, helps their goal of selling more equipment, but it only helps the sports goal of making money, which is the most important thing. But I really wanted to touch on something. You said the word global, and it triggered me. So the reason I think powerlifting has a massive opportunity that's just untapped is actually two reasons. One, it's incredibly popular internationally, incredibly popular. And so relative to other like NFL, MLB, basketball is very popular internationally. But I'm like, hockey's fairly popular, but really not actually. It's popular north of Canada, along in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, sorry, not thinking, but like it's the international appeal, especially with technology. We can distribute this everywhere. The second thing is, and no one talks about this, but this is how I usually get people, especially when I talk to investors and stuff. It's the only sport in the world where men and women can compete fairly against each other.
Yeah.
And like the problem with women's sports, and I'm just going to say it, is it is an inferior product, women's basketball compared to men's basketball. It looks different. It's actually funny. Olympic hockey actually isn't. Olympic hockey I actually found very entertaining. The women were very entertaining. I don't know why it's different. I don't know if it's because they're just better trained or because they're the Olympic team. I'm unsure, but that was cool. Like, that was very, very watchable. So maybe there is something there. There's some there. But you're asking people basically to watch a less good product. Whereas powerlifting, the women are way as entertaining, if not more so. Like it's very level in terms of me watching. I mean, they have the women and the men on the same stage in the same event in Sheffield that looks great. It kind of, instead of asking people to watch two of watching something substandard, you're actually going to be able to convince people to watch a women's sport that's actually entertaining, as well as they can compete head to head. If you use percent of the world record or you use a formula, they can compete against each other. You can't do that in any other sport. That's like that is the coolest thing. I think like us not taking better advantage of it for whatever reason is so silly. Like to see, I mean, we had Heather's at 47. Heather could beat Jesus on any given day. Like, what kind of entertainment, like, what kind of role models these women could be? Like, what kind of talk about the story you can tell? Meg Scanlon is one of my favorites. She's a mom. The story you can tell, the interview, the content, like the layers. And because listen, if I'm trying to sell you to watch a powerlifting meet versus watching the UFC, I have to differentiate myself. And that's the key differentiation. If you're home on a Saturday night and you're like, what am I going to watch? It's like, oh, I want you to get hit in the face. But maybe I just want to see, they only compete every once in a while. I'm going to put that on. Like, you have to differentiate yourself. Same thing with any business. I have to differentiate my gym from a Lifetime, etc. But yeah, that's one of the main things. I mean, I've talked about it several times, but I keep bringing it up. It's like we got to talk about men versus women is the key to the mainstream success because it differentiates the sport from other sports. There are feats of strength in every sport. There's feats of strength in football. There's people doing crazy things, but to see something like that, you can't really get anywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that could be our transition point. The series is co-ed. The series is co-ed. So you can have men and women on the same team. It's one of the cooler elements. I think that no one really talks about. We haven't really played it up that much because I'm still like fumbling trying to figure out like how to put all the puzzle pieces together. So we really haven't gotten there. But one of the things I want to do. So this year with the series, there's $5,000 for each of the 5 local meets, and then there's now $50,000 up for grabs at the finals, $35,000 to the winning team. So this I still don't think is enough to move the needle, to get people to be like, oh, I'm going to jump in for sure. I have to figure out how to make it a no-brainer. I like to bring up the Chipotle thing. Chipotle, when they first opened, it was $5 for a burrito that you could customize. And so like, duh, yeah, I'll be there. So it's we need to find a way to make this a no-brainer for athletes. Athletes need to see what we're offering and they need to go, okay, I'll be there. So in that quest, my thesis is, if you can, my thesis is on the cost side. So basically what I want to do is I want to find out how to keep costs as low as possible in order to maximize the amount of compensation I'm able to give to athletes. So like I'm not renting venues. I will rent a venue when we need it for extra spectators, but I'm not renting venues. I can seat like 300 people, which is, at $30-$40 a ticket, eventually is 12 grand. There's plenty of money there. I'm trying to get, trying to build something sustainable. So, we're collecting lifters are already going to pay entries. So we're collecting their entries that funds all the prize pool. And that should cover all the costs, and meet entries should cover the costs. What needs to happen and what's additional is the additional ornaments on the tree. And that is, once we build the tree, the additional ornament is going to be the streaming. So basically you have this thing, you have meets every month, you have a championship, you have some finality, is getting people to pay a monthly subscription that can then scale. So you pay this monthly subscription, you're paying every month, and then you take that subscription money, you pay some of it to the athletes, you take the rest, you invest in advertising, promoting the sport. Hopefully more people then subscribe to your platform, and then you can take more money, give it to the athletes, take more money to promote the sport, and now you have a machine, right? That's what you want. You need to build a machine that takes in money and spits out more money that you can spend on trying to make more money. It's a business. You've now turned the sport into a business. Right now, we don't really have that in powerlifting. We just don't have any sort of mechanism to make money. And there's other we would get more sponsorship money. We would make more money on merch. There's all kinds of things. That you can add that are monetization vessels that can make you more money that you can then invest in trying to do more merch, do more this, that, and the other. So I don't think it's not that complicated. It's just going to take a little time. And I was ranting about that this weekend. I'm like, it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some trial and error. It's going to take figuring out. I think once we have enough incentive for athletes to want to come out to the meets, people are going to pay to watch them, and then we're going to be able to give them more to come out more, and then we're going to be able to constantly improve the product, improve the equipment, improve whatnot as far as the sport's concerned. One other thing I do want to add, next year is an all-star meet. I know people feel like, oh, but powerlifting is an individual sport. I think some elements of the individual are good, but I think it's more like that head-to-head thing. I think you take the best 247s, you take the best 252s, and you put them head-to-head. Like, I think there's better ways to do it. I think you do an all-star meet where it's only the top 10 lifters. And so you don't have to, you can see all the best lifters, but it's not going to be like all day long. I think there's different options when it comes to that kind of stuff. Or you take the best 16 lifters, the top 8 in each weight class. You got options there. There's different ways you can do it individually and it'd be better. You have Women's Day and Men's Day. You take the top 16 women, top 16 men, do 2 different days. And that's your all-star meet. And then you also give a best lifter prize too. So you got different options when it comes to that. Team USA versus the world, I love. Like, there's different options you could layer in to make this better. But we've talked about raising money and stuff. I think at this point, it's not even like we're too in the middle. Like, a little bit of money doesn't do anything. Like,
Yes.
like we would need 10-20 million dollars to take a big leap, and no one's going to put 10 to 20 million dollars into something like this. So right now we might as well, you have to build proof of concept before you're going to get any sort of investment. We're in the proof of concept phase right now. Maybe like before I had kind of found the right model, maybe we could have used some seed money, but right now, if you gave me some money, I'd be like, I'm probably okay. Would I sell equity? And unless it's for like an insane amount of money, probably not. So we're kind of, that's somewhat of a good place maybe. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think about the greater landscape? What do you think about all this?
I mean, largely, it's to kind of build off of what you've just been saying is, we started this off and spent most of the episode talking about like how much money is out there, both as far as like the total addressable market and the institutional capital that's out there to help capture it. But we're just not there yet. There needs to be there. We're like you said, that weird little space where we're too big to where somebody that's like kind of just generally well off couldn't be enough to maybe push it over. We would need some sort of you need some crazy some individual billionaire to come in and kind of get things
Yeah,
moving.
because it's like, okay,
But the
you
whole
gave
thing
me
is what's
yeah, if you
but
give me
what
$1 billion today, I'd blow through it in like 3 seasons, and then what?
yes,
Like
yeah.
then
Well,
we're
but
gonna
that's
need another 10. I mean, is that just startup? Is that just startup? Make sure you're gonna burn through 1 million, and then you're gonna need another 10 if it works, or if it doesn't.
yes, which is that's not enough money for those firms that are now getting into professional sports to really care about. That's just not enough
Right,
money
right,
for
right,
them
right.
that's just boring to them. It's not worth it. But the point being that if you were able to make these tweaks, you're able to get more people involved in it. You're able to get more viewers and actually get some advertisers in there.
Right, right.
That's when you can start to go to these institutional investors and really start to just exploded from there, right? Because that's even a big thing that comes up in that paper is sports are extremely under leveraged compared to other asset classes. So they're just looking to dump all kinds of money into sports. Like
Yeah,
it's just like something that they talk about is the loan to value uh ratios in sports is like right here they've got it at 10%. I mean, in most other verticals like healthcare, real estate, media and entertainment, 50%. Like there's so much more capital in all these other sectors. That's another reason that they're looking at it, because it's just like there's no real capital in it. But
Is that because?
we'll just
But isn't that because these businesses are just so cash flow positive that they just don't, like, they're already just so established that they don't need the leverage?
No, they're extremely leveraged. Like infrastructure and utilities, for example. I mean, 70%. That's pretty close to what like a mortgage LTV ratio is. I mean, that's pretty high. But part of it is they know that like the cash, like in infrastructure and utilities, well, the cash flow is virtually guaranteed for stuff like that. The cash flow isn't sports. I think the problem is that here, what do they say? This imbalance is a result of several factors, including league level debt restrictions. So some of the leagues, there are restrictions on how much you can leverage an individual franchise. Conservative ownership cultures, right? Because again, a lot of these
But
people
how, I
that
mean,
still look at
okay, if I own the Chicago Bears, how can I even take that money in to grow? The media deal is already done, and that's done at the league level. Like, I can't take on more debt to do that. I mean, I can take on more debt to build a stadium and build
yes,
a
yep,
big complex. I guess I could.
yes,
And then I could. I mean, that's what they're doing now, right? And like, no, they're not having any problems borrowing to build real estate. Like, what would like as like the stadiums are already selling out. Like, more advertising is not going to um like move the needle for them. It's like where do you even find that? I mean, that's why they're doing real estate, because they can't even find.
hmm
So that's got that. I don't know where more debt gets you, gets you as a professional sports team. Whereas like someone like me, if you gave me $10 million, I don't. I honestly don't doubt I could get that back, because I'd be able to build the preeminent powerlifting. I mean, SPD would be coming back to me if I had $10 million to spend on building out powerlifting. They'd be like, you know what? We're tired of running this event. We're just going to put our logo on it. You can run it. You know, like if I had 10 million to spend. Yeah, that's interesting. Because that would be 10 years of prize pools.
yeah,
That would be
yeah,
10 years of the largest prize pool you could possibly have, and then you're going to break even on the event itself, especially if you sell the pay per view, the stream, you do anything like that.
mhm,
Um, yeah, yeah. That's basically 10 years, and then you just have 10 years to figure it out, basically. Um, just I figured out a gym in 2 days, so I don't.
mhm.
That's actually a great story. Quick, quick proof of. So when I bought my gym. I actually coming up on our 6 year anniversary on the 20th. I bought the gym 6 years ago. I bought the gym for $0.00. The previous ownership had gotten behind about $30,000 on the rent. I came in and the gym wasn't making any money. After I bought it, in 2 weeks, it was cash flow positive. So I did a couple things that were cool. One, I switched our billing from monthly to weekly, or monthly to every 4 weeks, which gives us an extra billing cycle per year, which increased our revenue by 8% off the jump. I added a 24-hour system, which was $800, and then I just negotiated the remaining debt balance of the uh, rent onto a new lease, and we were cash flow positive almost immediately. And so um, that kind of skill is what I hope to bring to the powerlifting world. I think it's just going to take maybe a little more time. It's a little bit bigger of an apple than the gym is, to bite.
Yes,
Um,
but to it's something we kind of touched on earlier too. This is and that's an example of you don't need to make like huge or a lot of
yeah.
changes
Okay. Great.
to
Great.
make a big difference, right? That like we were saying earlier, you don't need to fundamentally change the nature of the sport, right? It's just a few small things to make it more presentable, to make it a little bit more interesting.
How
That's
about
it.
just try some things? If they don't work, the
Yes, yeah,
sport's not
yeah.
going anywhere. Like one of my new ideas, which I've been working on, like working on my when I say working on, I think about it in my brain. Is is, okay, how do we make the sport faster and a little more entertaining? So one of the things so my big things are make sure all the athletes are competitive. A majority of the athletes you're watching are competitive. Make the events shorter by reducing the number of competitors. That fixes both those things simultaneously. And then the third thing, I was, I was, I do this all the time. I invite my members of my gym to come to the competitions and watch them, the better ones, not like the regular local ones. And I ask them questions. I go, hey, what's your immediate reaction? I go, how do you feel? What's your immediate reaction? What are you telling me? What are the issues? And the one thing that's been like simultaneous is bench is so boring. And so I'm like, okay, how do we fix this? We got to reduce the number of attempts. And so what I want to do is I want to go to 2 attempts, but 2 attempts puts it too much on the judging because you miss your first one. Now it's enough. Like, how many times do you see lifters miss their first 2 and then make their third? So what we need is a wild card third attempt. So you take 2 attempts. It gets us to, one, you're going to take your seconds on your openers, and then you're going to take a heavier one in your second, and we'll be done. But then if you miss that one at the end of the flight, you can take your third if you want. But once you take a third, you can't use it again. So you're stuck with 2 attempts on bench and 2 attempts on deads. So if you fuck up or you feel really good on the day, you might take a third on squat. But most people are going to save it because it's going to be a really powerful leverage tool on your deadlift. So something like that, I'd love to try. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't see why it wouldn't, but it's like we need to try it and see how it goes. Otherwise, we're never going to know. So I'm interested. If someone else has more ideas like that, I would love them because I haven't been able to think of anything else that would make it better. Challenges that's an easy thing. Like if you have teams, each team gets 3 challenges. You go to the replay booth. That way you're not stopping competition all the time. You get 3 challenges. Or 2 challenges is what the NFL does. Yeah, 2 challenges. If you're correct, you get another one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't like that you get both. I think you should keep. I think you should. I don't know. You try. Let me try it. Let me see.
But try. And this is a thing that the professional sports leagues, they try all kinds of different stuff, right?
They change the rules every single year like clockwork. If they find anything that will make the sport more entertaining, they will do it every single year. They're so good at that. And that's what we should be doing. We should be changing the rules. Whatever rules we can change to make the sport more competitive. Competition is what matters. How can we change the rules to bring the athletes closer together? Like, okay, for example, here's what the NFL would do. Austin Perkins is blowing everyone out of the water. What does Austin Perkins do that we can, if it went more years, because actually I think Elliott's right on his heels. But if Perkins was winning too many years in a row, they would, like Agatha, would already be nerfed by now. They would figure out what she's doing, and they would restrict it to make it more competitive. No one wants to see blowouts, and is it unfair? To her, yes. To the rest of the league, no. It's bringing the margins. It's making the sport more competitive so that people want to come and watch. It's like that kind of stuff is ancillary. You can only do that stuff if you have the actual league to bounce that stuff all off.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's even if they don't work, I think what we've talked about and we've learned from the awful rollout of the new rules in the IPF is that even if people don't like it, they're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
So you're very much in there of like it's another way, even if it's not a good change. Okay, it's great. It didn't work. You tried it, but it's something different. It's something that got people maybe more engaged than they were before. It's just more ways that you create attention for the sport. Like it doesn't have, the whole thing is like it doesn't have to work, right? Like just try something different, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean that's the other thing too. Is like, okay, so yes, you need to make the product better, but you also need more of the product to keep trying and doing these things. Like, I think the biggest thing to help us get more attention is just to so for example, when Worlds ends in June, I mean, it's going to be better now, but like when Worlds ended in June, the NFL season hadn't even started, and the NFL season would start and end before the next meaningful powerlifting meet. Like, it's like, what's going on? So now it's going to be a little different, but now it's almost going to be the same problem. You're going to have a meet in February or March. You're going to have nothing. So you're going to have nationals, February or March. You're going to have nothing for April, May until June. You're going to have a 3-month gap. And then you're going to have another 3-month gap before Sheffield. You're going to have July, August, and September, and October. You're going to have a 4-month gap between Worlds and Sheffield. So everyone's just going to sit on their thumbs for 4 months. and not make any content. I mean, I just don't know how that is sustainable. That's a mistake. Like you need an event. I think every month except for like maybe December. I think you take December or January off for the holidays. Maybe like November, December off. Like I love that. You take those November, December. Actually, December is like one of my bigger meets, so maybe not. But November, December off, and then you go. You start out of the gate in January. January, February, March, April. Like you want to be done, but you kind of want to wrap before the NFL season starts. Has always been my idea. You compete the first 9 months out of the year, and then you shut it down. And then you don't have to compete with the big brother. But yeah, I mean, I'm that's my biggest worry for them. I'm going to be doing my own thing, but like my biggest worry for the IPF is like you're going to lock yourself in for at least the next 5 years into Nationals, World, Sheffield, Nationals, World, Sheffield. So like I don't know where the opportunity for growth is going to come. Like how, like, are you going to grow? Someone said, did you say that you thought NAPF? I forgot who we talked to. Who said that NAPF is where they're going to grow? Which I thought was like, okay, no, I forgot who I talked to, but who was I having the conversation with? Anyway,
yeah, that's not ring a bell. Yeah.
I'll have to figure out who I was talking to. But they thought that basically the 93 weight class is probably in my group chat. They thought the 93 weight class is so deep that what's going to happen is whoever doesn't go to Worlds is going to like go to NAPF, and then NAPF's going to be better because they're going to go to NAPF to try to get to Sheffield from NAPF, which is crazy because it's not even a guarantee. It's a wild card. So you have to be like, one, if you're American, they're only going to allow one of the two wild cards to be American. They're not going to allow both to be American. So like I thought that was interesting, but I mean, these meets are already expensive for these athletes, and like to have to go to some Caribbean island and take time off again for the fourth time in a year, I think is somewhat tough for some of these guys. But yeah, it's best of luck if that's where you want to go. You want to grow the sport through a regional meet in North America, in Chile. That's interesting. But yeah, I don't know when I don't think they're gonna do like an SPD Austin type thing this year. So you're not gonna have that. Avankis may do something, but I don't know when could that possibly even be. I don't know. I know there's gonna be a rising.
Not gonna be in November.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, who knows? They're kind of crazy. Who knows? If they finally pull some money out, they could maybe do something. But yeah, that's a classic example. I mean, Avankis, they spend too much money on production and then don't have enough money on prize pool. Athletes care about production, but I mean, I've always
care more about the prize pool. Yeah,
no, some of them do care more about the production than the prize pool because they go, I make more money in my so like at Avankis, it's really hard to win. Like you have to be. I mean, Perk won; he was the best in the world, so it's like it's really hard to make the money there. So it's like the experience is all that matters for them. Like if they don't win, it's experience because they're not going to make money anyway. So yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I'd love to get to a point where we could just pay athletes to show up. I mean, you could build a much cooler meet if it was like, oh, I'm going to give you $5,000 if you show up. I think that's very interesting. And that is how sports work. You offer someone $5,000 to show up, they show up, and then yeah. Any other thoughts? We're gonna wrap this up because I gotta go. But we're gonna see what Reddit thinks
you
about.
Want to check it with Reddit? Yeah. Well, there's really only one.
The survey one
thread. What's that?
Do you want to go over the survey one? The survey one's great.
The survey one? Which one's the survey one? That's
you haven't seen that?
No.
Where is it? It's 2025 r/Powerlifting survey results.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bang through these and talk about them for the next 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. I was just gonna, in passing, the top thread was about the first 600 kilo squat that happened over the weekend.
Yeah. We're not talking.
We're just going to pretend that doesn't exist.
Talk about like, bro, like, okay, so hold on, okay. There's a reason the Fed you lift in matters. Because if I go to the YMCA and I put up 120 in a hoop game, that is not a record.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
that's
you
not how
averaging
it works.
you
They're called
averaging
NBA records for a reason.
yes, you averaging 30 points a game in a rec league is not
Yes,
commensurate with
that's
Jordan
the
averaging
exact
30.
same
That's yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like,
It's the same thing. It's
it
the
is
exact same thing.
there's no difference. It matters. It matters. There's a reason lifts in the IPF matter more. They have bench depth rule. Like USAPL benches don't count. They're not going to transfer over because they don't have standards. That's not a standard. Benching like this is not a standard. But yeah, so we're not talking about that because it's like for what?
Why?
I mean, it's amazing. His knees weren't wrapped, so that was actually kind of cool. I thought.
Well, you want to know why? Because he's not squatting low enough for him to use the reps.
Oh yeah.
That's why. All right.
Use AI. AI needs to be used for that.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's go to the survey. Let's go to the survey.
All right. Okay. Apologize for this. Okay, so this guy I actually had a conversation with him because I also do a survey every year, and I wonder if that's why because mine got blocked. My post. I do mine on Instagram though. I haven't put it out there because I was weird that it got blocked. And I think it got blocked because this guy was already doing one. The problem is mine's different than his. His is actually way more data driven. Mine is more like, how do you feel? So he's got male results and female results. The first thing I commented, this survey is way too long. It's insanely long.
It's huge.
So he's like, it's 21 questions. It's not that long. I'm like, dude, I didn't even want to. I stopped reading the questions because there were too many of them. And because the way he breaks it down is bad too. It's really hard. I appreciate this guy's effort. It's great. I like honestly, anyone who's doing stuff like feds don't do this stuff. It's great that he's doing this stuff. I don't like the questions he asks. I think the question should be more like, how was your year? You go past, present, future. How did you feel about last year in the sport? How do you currently feel about the sport? And how do you feel about the sport going forward? And then what things would have made your experience better? What experience would make your current experience better? And what things in the future would make you? I want your ideas. I want your feedback. I want to know. And then what happens is if 17 people say the same thing, top of my list, action item. I do this literally every month in my gym. I send a survey every month to everyone. I usually get like 40, 50 responses. My members are great about feedback. And then some things I'm not aware of, some things I don't even know exist, some things are very universal, and I put those things at the top of the list. But yeah, so let's go over this really, really quick. He had 125 respondents, which isn't great, especially in a 50,000 person thread. But again, I think the length of the survey was crazy. He was asking how. I'm not going to break down. I'm just gonna go over the questions, and then I'm not going to break down all the responses. He goes, "Have you competed?" And what's interesting, if you track each participant's dots, gym total, and their comp total, and then gave you what they answered based on their dots, and he broke it down. He broke down the averages, which is actually kind of cool. It said, "Have you competed?" was a question. Do you compete in a tested fed? Have you ever been drug tested for the sport? What divisions do you compete in? I think you got to go raw only, or you got to go raw untested versus tested. I don't think you can include multi or single ply in you have to do the surveys separately.
Yeah.
What division? Yeah. Weight class breakdown. That's tough because the weight classes are different, but whatever. Age breakdown, that's good. You need to know that. What grip do you pull with? I'm not into the competition side, so I don't ask questions like this because I'm not. I find that's not on my spectrum, the coaching spectrum. I don't technical stuff is weird. It's is your quarterback a righty or a lefty? I would never care about that in a sport. I do, but I wouldn't. Yeah. As a fan, do you think sumo is cheating? That's a weird question because it's within the rules, so it can't be cheating. It can only be cheating if it's against the rules. So I don't think that's a good question. I think the question should have been, do you think sumo should be outlawed? And that's a little more interesting. Do you think arching during bench is cheating? Again, that needs to be the same thing. Do you think arching in bench should be restricted? Now, this one's fascinating. Can't believe this. Do you like the new IPF elbow bench rule? 57% yes. Cannot believe that. Cannot. 57, yes. 38, no. Sorry, not percentage. What? I can't believe that. I can't believe that. I don't think I got. Oh, my sister's in the chat. She's about to say something about me. I'm supposed to be at my parents' house. I was supposed to be there 30 minutes ago. Whatever. Powerlifting. Nah, you can't tell me what to do. Okay. Do you take a lift off? That's interesting. Breakdown of tested lifters by fat. Yeah, that's interesting. And they don't break it down PA versus USAPL, so that's hard to like delineate. Like I had people like you're not in the 23 of these people are not in the IPF. They're in PA. Maybe one of them is in the IPF or goes to Worlds. So it's just some of this is a little interesting. I mean, this person put a lot of effort in, but I think you gotta break it down a little. Yeah, and I think that's actually the gist of it. And then there's more. It's not that bad. Just the way he presented it made it seem like it was so long. So wait, hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, okay. So it really wasn't that much.
Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't that much. It's just the way he broke it down made it seem like it was forever. So I was talking with him about it. Again, I prefer knowing. Oh, they are leaving. Oh, that's so sad. I'll be there in like 5 minutes, actually. 1 more minute. All right. Yeah. So again, very interesting survey results. Maybe we'll. I'm not sure what next week's theme is. I want to do something different next week. I want to do something maybe. Because we got our nationals preview will be the following week, so I want to do something different. Maybe we'll get someone who does statistics on or something. But yeah, I gotta run. So anything else?
That is it. That was it.
That's it.
Discussion.
That's good. We will see you guys next week for a topic TBD.
There you go. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.